We're now in Acts chapter 18, and there's a lot of things that can be pointed out here, but let me give you something that caused Paul problems from the human point of view that we need to pick up on. In Acts chapter 18, Paul's habit every time he went to a city was to find a synagogue, and then the elders of the synagogue often would ask Paul, come up and speak, and when he did, Paul's gospel of Gentile equality and inclusion and that Jesus was the Messiah. Why did they dislike the idea of Jesus being the Messiah? I think, number one, their idea of a Messiah was he was a conqueror and Jesus was killed. He was literally crucified on a tree, and that was considered to be shameful. That's not the kind of Messiah they wanted. He didn't have muscles like Absalom and David. He wasn't handsome. And when I got great news for you, Paul would say, Jesus is Messiah. Wait a second, Paul, wasn't that the guy that was crucified on that cross? That's not the kind of Messiah we want. He failed. Besides, he's proclaiming that Jew and Gentile can be one. We know we're better. Get him. So they would throw Paul out. And that would cause the synagogue split. And what you're seeing was, on a human level, is a reaction to the implications of the gospel message. And Paul's causing synagogue split after synagogue split after synagogue split. And when you lose people on a human level, the synagogues are having a loss of control. So Crispus and others in chapter 16:8 start their own church. Synagogue split. And in 9 and 10 is the main point I want to make, is that we often think that Paul, as an apostle, was a Superman. We often think, St. Paul, St. Peter, they were very saintly. Well, I love this. Paul is causing synagogue after synagogue split, threat after threat. They're going to get him. And what's Paul's response? Well, it isn't, well, thank you, Lord, I know you'll keep me safe. Every one of us have those times of weakness. And in 18:9 and 10, Paul's afraid. And the Lord said to Paul in a vision, well, why would the Lord send this vision? Paul was afraid. It is human and it's normal and it's natural. Fear is built in. He says, do not be afraid any longer, Paul. Keep speaking. As a matter of fact, it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 1 through 5, Paul was in terrible shape in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, 1 through 5. He was in weakness, fear, and trembling. He was shaking. How's that? Well, I want you to show that all of us are weak. It's okay. And the Lord had to send an angel, Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, and here in 18:10 of Acts, to remind him, the Lord will protect you. I am with you, and no man will attack you in order to harm you. You have special protection, for I have many people in this city, Jesus tells him. Now, I find that interesting. Those people consist of Jews and Gentiles, and everyone, just like Jesus said, and we brought up in these times in Acts, that he has sheep of flock who will be one with this flock, Jew and Gentile together. And he used the jihadist. And that jihadist, as tough as Paul was at times, he could be afraid. It's okay. And he stayed there a year and a half, and I think he only stayed there a year and a half is because God encouraged him, even though he was afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Paul experienced it. Let the Lord know he understands.